Hey, check out my gold chain here. Look at this.
Oh, it looks very Sopranos.
I have 2 gold chains now.
And a
2
backwards
gold
hat.
chains.
You're giving AJ.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm giving AJ vibes, right?
It's very Sopranos coded.
Yeah.
That's a new thing I've
You're
learned.
Soprano coded?
Coded.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it means, but it kind of
Like
just.
similar.
Yeah.
Same vibe.
Yeah,
yeah.
coded.
Coded.
Have you heard that, Ross?
Vibe.
The kids saying that down in Delaware?
I haven't, but I use the word vibe way too frequently. So if I can start using coded, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like coded. Good word. Good term. I approve. It's good.
All right.
Second best term of the pod from situationship. That takes cake.
I don't know. I thought ballsack was good. I'm not hearing
It's
a lot
not
of people
catching
saying
it on.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
We need more
Well,
listeners.
I think if you just keep saying it more and more, I think the problem is we don't say it enough.
We knew the term ballsack. These other 2 are new to us.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
true. Welcome to Machete Order, a podcast about the best TV shows of all time, or at least some of them. I'm SJ Petaruti.
I'm Maxine Philivong. Each season, we're joined by a special guest host,
2 of us will have seen the show before.
and one hasn't.
This season, we're talking about The Sopranos.
You're not gonna believe this. He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was an interior decorator. His house looked like shit.
Are you guys ready to do this?
Okay.
All right, should we get down to business?
Getting down to session 8. Welcome back. We're excited to be here.
We've done 8 of these. Can you believe it?
Don't sound so
Whoa.
excited.
No, think about.
Well,
I was listening to our first episode, and I was like, "Wow, we were not comfortable yet."
We've come so far.
Yeah, we come so far.
Ross has a real microphone now.
they have a gold chain.
You have a gold chain.
Backwards hat. We really changed already. Fame has gotten to Ross's head, and
Yeah, it really has. I'm all coded now.
Yes, you are.
use that word in a sentence.
With your Italian accent.
I am coded. I am coded. Salute.
As
Mozzarella.
millennial as ever. All right. Well, we most recently assigned, we're into season 4 now,
We're on
back
season
into
4.
sequential order, so to speak. Episode 2 of season 4, No Show. Episode 10 of season 4, The Strong Silent Type. And then the finale of season 4, episode 13, Whitecaps.
Ralphie's alive.
Ralphie's
again.
back.
Ralphie's back, baby.
Alive and well.
Isn't it nice, though, kind of like seeing him like reappear?
Is
And
it
you're like,
nice? No, it's a jump scare. I'm like, he's back.
The hair,
His hair.
everything.
Then I know he's bald.
This has been the strangest part. The strangest part of this whole podcast was processing, his brutal death, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
he's
Being
alive and
back.
well again on the show.
Like
Yeah.
it never happened.
Yeah.
High level thoughts, thematic themes that we were thinking about.
Well, the first that I had for these 3 episodes, since it did open for episode 2, No Shell, Will Arnett jump scare.
Yeah.
He didn't have any lines, but he was there.
Good appearance before they were famous.
Yeah, before he was famous.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. He's got a bit part in The Sopranos. He's not funny. He's
Yeah.
just a straight.
Yeah. When was he on
Yeah.
SNL?
When did
Will Arnett was on SNL.
Was he?
Arrested Development?
Oh, yeah. I
Was
know
his-
that, but I didn't know if he got his start in SNL. Maybe I'm thinking of, because he was married to Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
I
think he.
thought they met.
I think he started on AD. I think Arrested Development was around 2003, 4.
It was,
Must have been around the same.
yeah, it was around that
maybe
time.
later.
Yeah.
He's been in a bunch of stuff, but yeah, definitely a little jump scare with
Yeah.
Will Arnett appearing and not being Will Arnett, just being
No,
like,
just like
the
being-
husband
Yeah.
of the undercover cop.
Yeah. So high level, this was, I'm assuming you guys showed me the storyline to see Christopher's rise and fall of his addiction.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he goes back into his addiction after this too. Like he relapsed, or maybe I'm like,
Relapse is a pretty common thing for
yeah.
addicts. So yeah.
So
But this is like this is the
Yeah.
arc of addiction.
yeah.
And that's obviously
Yeah.
the theme that we're talking about here.
Mhm.
And there's some other subtler themes that are going on. Carmela and Furio
Yeah.
are doing their thing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the reason why Whitecaps is added into this, because there's a lot of that other plot with the two of them, and we kind of wanted to bring that home.
A lot of hypocrisy in these episodes.
Yes.
Adriana and everything that she's going through,
I feel really
which really just tugs on me in so many different ways. I want to get into that a little bit.
I feel really bad for all the women in this episode.
Yeah.
I mostly feel bad for Carmela because of that haircut. That was awful.
Oof. Rough.
Maybe this is 3 episodes of jump scares.
The return of Ralphie.
Tony, what was Tony like? I thought we agreed we're gonna talk about it if you got a haircut. What was he like? You gotta approve these. You gotta let me approve these or something.
Yeah. Seems a little possessive.
Well, she gets like the
Little bit.
most stereotypical Karen haircut anyone could possibly get. And maybe that's just like the early 2000s mom haircut, but like I got triggered when I saw that. I was like, are you going to yell at me right now?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How, what's the threshold for needing to consult with the partner about the haircut? Like, how significant does it be? Is it just a pure judgment call every time? Because if it's going to be drastic like that, I do see Tony's point. Like, she maybe should have been like, hey, Tony, what would you think of waking up to this every day?
I think you shouldn't ask permission from your partner, but I think that your partner has good insight into what may or may not look good. It's like the same when you would ask a friend, hey, should I get this haircut? That should be the same level as a partner.
You're looking for like support, not necessarily
validation. Yeah, you're not looking
Sign
for
off.
approval. Yeah.
Buy-in, maybe.
Yeah.
Not sign-off. Sign-off's too official.
Yeah, not in like a possessive way, but more in like would this look good? Especially with a drastic haircut like that. If I asked one of my friends if I should get that haircut, they'd lock me up. They'd know something was going on.
Yeah, but then would you do it anyway?
It's
Or would
just
you
bad.
be like, oh, I guess I'm not going to do it? And then are you just giving in to what peer pressure and other people think?
Did I tell you about the one time I got an awful haircut recently?
No.
Okay, so I went into a salon when I
The one time recently?
this was back in November. I was going through an awful breakup. I was at like my worst, and I was like, I just moved to Boston a few weeks ago. I need to find a new hairdresser. When I was living in New York, I used to go to Chinatown to get a $20 haircut, and they were great. So I was like, I can find that here in Boston. So I was online, I was Googling, I found this place in Chinatown, and I was like, perfect, great, going. I go in there with a picture of what I want, and I sit down and I show the woman who's going to be cutting my hair, and she said, no.
What was the picture?
It was just like, I don't know, I wanted it to my shoulders, kind of just like a blunt cut, not like anything styled or like layered, but just like a little shorter. And then she said, no, that's not going to look good. And I said, who am I? You're the hairdresser. Maybe you know what would look good. Sure. And she was like, okay, I'm going to give you this haircut. And I said, what am I going to say? Argue? Okay, whatever. So then she takes me to wash my hair, and after she's done washing my hair, she parts my hair, and I part my hair in the middle, and she starts to part it like way off to the side, like all the way to my right. And I said, I don't part it there. I part it in the middle. And
Oh,
she
you
said,
do now?
Yeah, that's what she said. She said, no, it's gonna look better this way. And I was like, okay,
Whoa.
guess I will. I'll part it there. She proceeds to like sit me down and give me. I wasn't really looking at the haircut I was getting because I was like, it's in God's hands now. But during the entire haircut, she was telling me about how her daughter was graduating medical school and getting her like white coat ceremony. But she was like, I'm just so tired. I don't want to go to this white coat ceremony, even though it's like the biggest graduation ceremony of any any medical school.
Quite the achievement.
Yeah. Anyways, she's sitting me down. She's cutting my hair. She's telling me how much she doesn't want to support her daughter. She finishes the haircut. I look in the mirror, and I have the biggest crisis I've ever had in my entire life. And I had to sit there and smile. I wore my hair up.
It was that bad?
What? It was awful. It was like
that-
choppy layers. None of it was even because I part my hair in the middle and she cut it to the side.
Yeah.
It was maybe the worst haircut I've ever gotten in my entire life. And I was in the worst place after getting dumped that I've ever been in.
Not great for your self-esteem.
Not great for my self-esteem. I have no pictures from November because I didn't want to look at myself. It was awful.
That was going to be my first question.
There's no pictures.
It's a shame.
Well, if there are pictures, my hair is up. My students didn't know that I wore my hair down at all for like the entire semester because I was so embarrassed about this haircut.
At least you have that as an option. You can hide it by putting your hair
Yeah, by
up.
putting it up.
Yeah. Ross, have you ever had a really bad haircut?
Can always wear it backwards.
That's true
hat
too. Yeah.
Don't forget.
Well, the guys have the hat thing.
Yeah.
Bad haircut. Yeah. I cut my own hair before my senior year of high school photos,
No.
and it was disastrous.
How'd you
It was
cut
really
it?
bad. It was just like a really short, like kind of bowl cutty, coated style haircut.
It's
There's a lot of like it wasn't full bowl cut, but there were vibes.
Today's session is brought to you by the words coded and vibes.
it's like Ross just learned 2 buzzwords,
Wait.
and he's like, I'm using it.
It's a very
I'm
dad
just like
move of you.
hooked. Wait, hold on, real quick though. Your New York haircuts were in Chinatown.
Yes.
And did you say this Boston haircut was also in Boston, Chinatown?
Boston Chinatown.
Was it
So
$20?
And it
you're
wasn't
China-
$20. She scammed me. This is another part of the. I called and she was like $30, and I was like, okay, cool. She cut my hair. I didn't really want to wash because I washed it before. Anyways, I was paying, and she was like, that's $70. And I said, what do you mean $70? And she was like, I washed your hair, and I was like, who am I to argue?
Oh,
You sure
jeez.
did. So it was so much money. It was so much money for the worst haircut I ever got in my entire life. I haven't gotten a haircut in Boston since. So if any listeners know any salons,
Oh, you got to
I'll-
visit my boy Ulti.
I'll pay more than $20.
V&O Salon, Ulti.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
product placement. It's a good place. Go see Olivia.
I just think you gotta branch out a little. Koreatown, another style neighborhood. That's what you need.
I'm going to New York next week. I'm revealing a lot about the places that I'm living.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll cut this out, but I'm going back next week, and I'm gonna go to my guy. I need to go.
Oh, look at that. There you go.
That's one of the hardest things when you move to a new place is finding a barber or a stylist
Yeah.
for your hair. That's super important and
Yeah.
not easy to find.
I'll get there one day. I've been cutting my own bangs. I don't know.
They look good.
Thanks. Audio listeners wouldn't know this, but I have bangs, and I cut them myself in the bathroom mirror, and I hope for the best.
Well, they look pretty good.
Thanks.
My
Yeah,
mother,
they look
I
great.
was home from college once,
Great bangs.
and I needed a haircut, and so I went to this place that my mother recommended in Cranston, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Very Sopranos coded. So I go, I get the
Can't stop.
haircut.
We can't stop.
No, that was the proper use of the
Yeah,
term.
that was a proper use.
Thank you.
Ross, you're just throwing it around.
Different interpretation.
So I'm getting my haircut. It took me a long, long time to find the right type of haircut for
Yeah.
me. But this was fine. I had already surrendered to the fact that it was just going to look the way it was going to look. And she's finishing up and she's like, would you like me to do your eyebrows? And, I've got fairly, I wouldn't say bushy, but
Yeah.
full eyebrows.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, well,
They're
my
bushy.
son and all of his friends, we do their eyebrows. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, sure. Why not? So she takes me into a back room that they have.
Not the back room.
There's a back room. She lies me down on this table and she puts wax on my face, which is all a new experience for me.
Oh,
No.
Red flag.
Yeah.
That's a red flag.
And I should have said something in the moment, but I didn't because I was just like, oh, I just let her do her thing. She took the wax off. I sit up, I look in the mirror, and she has taken my eyebrows and made them into these like razor point
No.
tips. Yes. I looked like I had just had a prank. There's that scene where Anthony has his eyebrows shaved off.
Yeah.
I looked like that. It was
Yeah.
horrifying.
Oh my god.
And I go home and I'm mortified because there's nothing you can do with the eyebrows. When they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
It's not like I can put a hat on or I can put my hair up. I just have these like
No. You can.
thin-tipped metro eyebrows from Cranston, Rhode Island. And I go home and I go to my mother. I said, this is awful. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
It was in August, so I had about a month before school started again. But we also had our family golf trip coming up.
Oh,
and
no.
we're a very judgmental family. And my mother goes, they'll never notice. Don't worry. And she spends all this time trying to reassure me that it's okay. And my father comes home from work. We're sitting at dinner. My father wouldn't notice anything. You could bleach your hair blonde. You could lose a leg, and he would not notice. We sit down for dinner, and the first thing he says, what the hell did you do to your eyebrows? Awful. It traumatized my
That's
uncle.
funny.
It was a whole thing.
How long did it take for them to grow back?
Way too long.
No.
I think it was okay by the time I got back to school. I wouldn't have gone back, I don't think, if it was that bad. That was the worst. One of the
That's
worst
a valid reason
experiences.
not-
Traumatizing.
I'll read-
It left an imprint.
All right, back. Good. Wait, hold on. Good segue back to no show.
Yeah?
Let's talk about Adriana.
All right.
All right. So I have this in my notes. Her long nails, her hairspray, that wild hair. It reminds me of my hairdresser growing up, who would smoke cigs and like before, during, and after she gave me a haircut, and I just smell it on her long fingernails. So I wrote that down because Adriana will smoke anywhere and everywhere on this television show, in anybody's house, in any place, FBI office, Tony's house, wherever. And every time she does it, I think of my old hairdresser.
You have like
And I get
flashbacks.
grossed out.
Warwick, Cranston, these are all like very similar communities to New Jersey.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that we went
Yes.
to high school with that would love The Sopranos, could have been central casting for The Sopranos. And so I get it. There's a lot of similarities, parallels that you see from home and from this show. Also segueing around hair, my sister once had a really bad haircut, and I remember when she cut her bangs, it was a nightmare for her. And she dyed her hair like really jet black. Anyway, she was listening to the pod, and she said that we should start providing summaries of these actual episodes before we just get in and start discussing them. So
I just wanted to be on record. I gave a summary one time, and SJ said maybe we shouldn't do that. And
we're trying different things. We're working with formats.
it was only when someone else said it.
Well, you can thank Allie.
Yeah,
all right?
thanks, Allie. Thanks, because SJ didn't believe me.
Well, it might not work, all right? So, I mean, it's already been like 10 minutes, and we haven't even gotten to it yet.
In this episode, there are kind of two plot lines going on. Well, a little bit of three. So Meadow is really going through it this episode. She's dealing with the fallout of Jackie passing away and the emotions that come with it. And her parents obviously are not very sympathetic to the way she is acting. I think children act out for trauma, or everyone acts out with trauma in different ways. Meadow is obviously showing it in a different way, and we'll get to that. But Tony and Carmilla are not taking her processing very well. On the other side, we have Chris and Adriana's storyline.
Mhm.
Chris is not in a good place with his heroin use. Adriana is not in a good place where does that happen in this episode? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll cut that part out. But Adriana is not in a good place for who she is coming into herself as a person, as we talked about last episode. She kind of feels like she's alone. She doesn't have any friends, but she has this friend at the Bada Bing. Is that where she's working?
I think she works at a different club.
Yeah, she works at some club. She has this
She
friend.
met her at the mall.
Yeah, she's confiding in this friend,
Friend's name is Danny.
Danny.
Yeah.
And shenanigans ensue. We'll talk about those shenanigans.
It's an
Something
interesting way to
wrong
put
with
it.
that. Something wrong with that, broad. As Chris says. Chris's spidey sense is up the whole time about Danielle, but the whole time he just thinks she's a lesbian. That's his big thing.
Well-
it's not that she's an FBI agent.
Chris also thinks
That's
he's
what
gonna
he's
get
worried
laid.
Worst threesome attempt ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Is that it?
Yeah,
That's
and
the
that's.
end scene.
Am I missing anything?
This was your summary to
That's
have.
good.
Yeah. Am I missing any?
That's a great
Am I
summary.
missing any
summary.
big
And-
plot points? I don't think so.
Well, anything more, and it wouldn't be a summary.
There you go. Yeah.
Thanks.
Kept it tight. Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Esther doubted me last
Very
time.
tight.
So if you're
Very
listening, Allie, leave a comment.
We
All
appreciate
right,
it.
I have a question for you, Maxine.
Sure.
As a professor, Meadow opens this episode, complaining about taking 12 credits 2 summers in a row. 12 credits is not that much, is it? I guess in the summer, maybe.
12
That's a
credits
lot.
in the summer is a load, but usually you have like your summer is split up. Maybe Columbia does it differently. Your summer is split up into 2 summers, summer 1 and summer 2. What
Oh.
most students do is they'll take
Children.
they'll take 2 classes summer 1, 2 classes summer 2, or like 1 class each. And that's 6 credits each, so 12 credits for the whole summer. That is a big load for the summer, but it's not like it's anything out of the ordinary, I think.
Okay.
Meadows
She was
also
complaining.
she's very pejorative to her mother. Is that the right word? She talks down to her.
Never heard the
Meadow
word.
talks down to her mother a lot
Yeah.
in this episode.
Well, I think she gets that from Tony,
yeah.
because Tony doesn't respect Carmilla.
I was thinking about how there's that
Mm.
arrogance that you have sometimes when you get to
Yeah.
college and all of a sudden you know more about the world and about things
Oh,
than
yeah.
your parents do. I've had that experience with my brother. He went to college and all of a sudden he knew about all the problems in the world and we were just all asleep to it. It was like, no, you're just discovering these things.
You're
And
like,
now-
it's like your third eye opened, and you're like, oh my God, does everyone know these awful things are happening?
Yeah.
When everyone does know. But what were you guys like in college?
Oh, I was awesome. A lot of exes
believe
would
you
disagree
even
with
know
that. I don't know. I was busy. There was a lot going on in college. You know, I was playing rugby and got into film and a A lot of wiffle ball games in the summer.
Yeah. I was busy. That's how he describes his college career.
How about you, Ross?
I was pretty drunk the whole time. I don't know about you
Oh,
guys.
same.
Yeah, I mean, it's college. It's one of the important lessons to learn.
Yeah.
The unrequited love that's happening between Carmela and Furio.
I think it's
No thanks.
no.
Sorry.
No thanks.
We went opposite directions simultaneously.
We see the full arc in this session.
Yeah.
You know, this installment, we go from them having their moments and those tender, you know, she's coming over to his house in one scene in this episode to give him some ideas about a mirror backsplash. Quick aside, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, sounds awful.
So Cavoni Italian in Jersey in the 90s. But she's trying to help, you know, she's doing her best. But by the end of this little session, Furio's gone. And with his departure is Carmela's heartbreak.
Oh,
I know.
yeah. I thought this little I think little crushes is so cute. I love to have a little crush. Something about this was very sweet to me. Ross, you look like you disagree.
The infidelity just repulses me.
Well, everyone's cheating in this. It's almost like they're not even married.
We can't normalize it, Maxine.
You know what
Come on.
happens? We'll get to Whitecaps and then we'll talk about it.
Well, I think the
Then
reason
we'll talk.
it's sweet is because Carmela's being so horribly treated by Tony.
Yes.
That you're happy for her to have this moment
Yeah.
of genuine affection and to see another man treating her with that love and romance that everybody's entitled to.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily excuse the infidelity. Although, Ross, you're sounding a lot like these Catholic priests in the show. Just tisking. She made a vow. There's something to be said for,
Speak well.
you know, you got to keep the fire stoked, right? Like if you're in a marriage or a committed relationship and you are fucking around and you're not treating your partner like a romantic partner, but just like a coworker, that opens the door for these types of things to happen because people need passion.
Yeah.
They need romance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ross.
I'm not excusing it,
Well,
but I'm just saying Carmela deserves better.
Yeah. And to
Yeah.
see her have better is a satisfying moment for the viewers.
It's sweet.
Yeah. And Furio's a good guy.
But then it's taken away from her so quickly. So
Furio greater than priest. I'll take Furio any day over that creepy priest who just continues to haunt us as we watch all 6 seasons.
So we've
He
got
just
the
keeps coming back.
simmering of Furio and Carmela happening here
yes.
in episode 2. And we've also got some movement happening within the crew. We've got Paulie who's in jail.
Yeah. That was going to be another question.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to Polly?
He got pinched for like a gun charge. They don't show it in the show at all, but there was something related to a gun charge, and he ends up having to go to jail for a little while.
Yeah. How long is he in there for?
Couple episodes,
Yeah.
couple months. It's a little stint that he's doing.
So-
And
No, go ahead.
no, you go.
Oh, I was just going to transition. So Chris is now in Polly's spot.
Yeah,
He is kind of
Mhm.
the acting. I don't know what Polly's position is.
acting capo.
Acting
Capo.
capo.
Yeah,
Captain, yeah.
So Chris ends up getting this deal for construction.
yep. This is
thing?
the Esplanade construction project
Yeah,
that's been
yeah.
going on.
So with Chris's guys, they agreed to do like a no show, no work deal. What is a
that.
no show, no work? I didn't get it.
They
There's like
they don't really explain it in the show, but
Yeah.
from the context and these guys all sitting around in the construction site,
Yeah.
just doing nothing, I understand it to be that they are padding the numbers of the construction budget so that
oh okay
these jobs are just the salaries for these jobs just going straight to the family.
okay
And there's a variety of different types of ways that they're scamming the project with no shows, no works. And you can tell that there's a bit of a hierarchy there with Chris having the no-show job. And he comes up driving in his car and he sings, "If I were a carpenter and you were a douchebag." And he's got the no-show job, but the other guys have no work.
Yeah.
So they just sit there in folding chairs, eating ice cream and, you know, bullshitting.
All right, here's how it's going to go. 2 no-shows, 2 carpenter jobs, 3 no-works. And so it is decreed. Yeah, I was right there with you, Maxie. And they're describing that and like, the hell is it? What's the difference between a no-show and a no-work? Those seem similar.
Yeah. The nuances of
The
it all.
no-work, I guess you show up and just don't work because you showed.
Yeah.
Is that the difference?
No work. Yeah. No work. You're not
Yeah.
doing any work, but you got to be there.
Now that we're talking about it, kind of explains
Good.
itself, huh?
Yeah.
It does.
We've
Pretty
popped this
simple,
all
actually.
together.
That's the way certain people want it. That's the way it's going to be. I love it when Sil makes those types of decrees. It's just the way that he talks about it with his lip. This is my Sil impression. Yeah. He can jut that bottom lip out like the best of them. But no, Chris is starting to get more responsibility. Tony is grooming him for higher positions, and he's also slipping into a heroin addiction at the same time.
Yeah. A lot going on for Chris this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how Tony reprimands him for not thinking big picture.
Yep.
When they're at Artie's restaurant. And then Chris just completely internalizes that everyone he sees and talks to. You're not using your head. You're not thinking big picture. How many times did he say that to other people after Tony said it to him? I thought it was so hysterical.
He's trying to do his best, but he doesn't know.
Yeah, he's just not there.
No.
He doesn't know.
He has a poor sense of self-guidance, and he's heavily influenced by what Tony says and what Tony thinks. And I think Chris is such a deplorable character in so many ways, but he's so sensitive to how other people perceive him that it makes you feel very sympathetic to him. And you can relate to him because of that insecurity that he has.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why people like Chris so much. I think Chris is one of people's favorite characters.
Is Chris one of the favorite characters?
I think so. I think he definitely is up there for people. They love Christopher.
Well, I'm not a huge fan because of what happens in the next episode.
Yeah.
Which we will talk about. But I don't know. I'm not a huge Chris fan. Maybe I'll like him more as the episode's going on.
Yeah.
But we have like 2 more installments, so you have to convince me.
We'll see where it goes. You've got this is also an episode where Sil has a rare break of rank from Tony.
Right.
Because they steal the fiber cables.
Mm-hmm.
Tony yells at Christopher, tells him to see big picture. And then all of a sudden there are these tiles that are available on the site. And Sil says, oh, you know what? Go ahead and take the tiles. And he tells that to Patsy, who is now working for Chris and who feels marginalized a little bit by Chris becoming the capo instead of Patsy. And there's a great line that Tony says about that.
So what the fuck do you care? Last year you were pushing me to take him out.
Yeah, I'm just saying, with the change of rank and all, maybe he feels marginalized.
Marginalized? What the fuck does that even mean?
And so Sil tells, in a way, I think that made Sil feel marginalized, that Tony was dismissive of what Sil was telling him. And so when these tiles pop up, Sil says, you know what, go ahead, take them. And there's that rare confrontation between Sil and Tony where he's like, I think it was just a misunderstanding, miscommunication. And they kind of just bury the hatchet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never see Sil as mad at Tony as when they're in Tony's basement.
Yeah.
And they're talking about what happened. Sil had that look on his face, just like, you don't see him that pissed at Tony very often.
Yeah, he's standing up for it. And I think there's something to be said when you feel like the person that you're reporting to isn't listening to other people anymore.
Yeah.
And Tony doesn't have a lot of moments where he's seeking counsel from, and Sil's his consigliere, you know, and he dismisses him with that line, marginalized. What the fuck's that even mean? So I think Sil felt like the need to stand up a little bit and let his voice be heard. We talked a little bit about this, but, Chris and the worst threesome attempt ever. He's got this weird obsession and hatred for Danny, who's undercover pretending to be Adriana's best friend. And they're out at the club. They're celebrating because Chris is a capo now. Yeah. And Chris and Adriana start making out, and then he puts just a very awkward hand on the thigh of Danny, who's sitting next to him on the couch. And that's
Can we talk about this job for a second that Danielle has?
Yeah.
Right, Danny? Can you imagine? I mean, you can pay me any amount to do what she's doing, right? She's literally hanging out with the mafia day in, day out, putting herself in situations where she's about to be molested by a mobster with a gun under his belt. I mean, that's dedication.
I mean, we talk a lot about the
As a
mobsters
police
having to
officer.
lie to themselves about things to justify it. But on the other side of it, these agents that are going undercover, I mean, they're doing the exact same thing.
Oof. Spicy. Dangerous.
Dangerous indeed.
She could get killed easily.
And then there's,
I don't know why I use spicy there.
after she
it
leaves,
was.
Spicy's a good word to use.
yeah, that was an appropriate use
Yeah.
of the term.
Coded.
But then after she leaves, Danny gets offended, she leaves, and Adriana gets pissed at Chris, rightfully so. And you're trying to fuck her best friend with her. They hadn't talked about this. There's no planning about this threesome. This is just trying to spontaneously happen. Then Chris somehow turns the entire thing around on Adriana.
Oh, I hated that.
It's
I
awful.
hated
He
it.
does that all the time.
Yeah. And she's apologizing at the end of the episode
And
to
then she's
him.
apologizing to him. Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Chris is like #1 gaslighter.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone gaslight the way that Chris gaslights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The spooky ox trying to tear us apart. They can't tear it, but we got to. What? Like,
The thing where he went up to Danielle and was like, "Oh, where'd you get your jeans?" And then he turned it into, "She was telling me where she got her jeans,"
Yeah.
and like all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy.
What's the big deal about that, by the way? Cool. Got your jeans at Macy's.
Yeah.
It's great. It's not like some like sexual innuendo, is it?
I don't know. You go tell some strange woman, where'd you get your pants? See what happens. I feel like,
Well, I thought his whole point was that she was telling him. So a girl comes up to you and says, "Hey, I got my jeans at," you'd be like, "All right, cool. It's great."
if that's not what happens, he asks her.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
I thought she told him.
No, that's the whole gaslighting thing. All right, so gaslighting, Ross. Would you like to explain what gaslighting is to Ross?
Well, I want to know what the origin of gaslighting is.
What is origin
You know.
gaslighting?
Oh, I actually do know this. I don't know the movie that it's from, but there was this movie that was made where there was all about this husband who was manipulating his wife and psychologically terrorizing her. And they lived in this house where they had these gas lights, and he would dim the lights on her whenever he would start to like do these mental manipulations. And so that's where the term actually originated from.
Ah.
And it's meant to describe the way that men can take a situation exactly like the attempted threesome Chris tried to make happen with Adriana and Danny. And somehow, even though it's his fault and he's the one who's in the wrong, he says things and acts in a way that turns it so that Adriana feels like she did something wrong.
Yeah. So Adriana didn't do anything. Her emotions are completely valid, but Chris turned it into something that it's all her fault, and she has to apologize for it. Like, her feelings are completely invalidated and not true.
And I think in the movie,
So gaslighting is when it's really your fault, but you make the other person feel like it's their fault.
yeah, and you invalidate the feelings that that person is having. So I think one of the keys of gaslighting is that you're saying, no, you don't feel sad, or you aren't angry. You're just up. You dismiss those feelings that they have. You're not. So you invalidate them instead of acknowledging why you're feeling that way, and then asking like, why do you feel that way, and trying to come to that understanding. You deny that they're having that feeling. It's a very bad thing to do. It's from the 1944 film Gaslight.
1944?
1944.
Whoa.
Yeah, comes from a long, long time ago.
I thought it was like a new.
I gotta
newer
say, this is
term.
not it's not exactly what I thought gaslighting meant.
What do you think it meant?
I'm not sure I knew.
You're just so innocent.
That's
you don't
why
even
we
know
have
what
this
gaslighting.
podcast. It's more than just The Sopranos, folks. We're here to talk to you about
I
life.
mean,
It's so gaslight coded.
everyone has a couple terms in their life that you hear, right? And you just don't really fully know what they mean.
I think we're skipping over this huge plot point of Meadow and the therapist and her dealing with these
Yeah.
emotions from Jackie's death.
Yeah.
Tony and Carmilla, I think they're completely not blind to it. What's the word I'm looking for? They're desensitized to all this death that's happening in his
Yeah.
life. And this is the first time Meadow has had such a strong connection to someone that has died, who has been killed in the mafia. So she's having this like mental breakdown. They're not knowing what to do. She wants to go to Europe. They won't let her go to Europe. She just needs to take a break. And Tony sees Melfi. Melfi's like, maybe we should see a therapist. Tony's like, no. And, this confrontation happens where Carmilla tells Tony that Meadow wants to go to Europe. They go up to her room. They yell some more about it. They finally let her see a therapist.
And it does not go as they
Worst
planned.
therapist of all time. Worst therapist.
You think so?
I've never seen a worse therapist. Go to Barcelona. Here, I got an in for you. That's not what we're looking for here.
I mean, I don't think that you should be putting a kid into therapy with a predetermined outcome of what you would like to see the therapy end in the result. That seems very manipulative.
I don't think she was a bad therapist.
Really? I thought you were so invasive. I really didn't care for
I
it.
thought it was a little bit over engaged. I don't think a therapist is meant to tell you what to do. It's meant to
Yeah.
help you see your own path. And so she's like basically booking a flight for Meadow.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think that was the dangerous part about it. I also thought that this whole plot point illustrated an interesting dynamic of the difference that daughters can have for their mother and their father. And that's brought up while Tony's in therapy with Dr. Melfi. And he acknowledges that he'd always had a good relationship with Meadow, but that her hostility generally is directed towards her mother.
Right.
And then Melfi says, well, you're the template for all future lovers.
Mm-hmm.
Melfi's a little bit too into this Oedipus, Freudian, incestuous, psychological. I don't buy all that stuff quite as much as Melfi's laying it on.
Yeah. Well, that's like a true thing, right?
I mean, I don't think we know that much about psychology to say that anything is true at this point.
I mean, that whole thing. I mean, I've got a daughter. I was like, God, Melfi, I don't want to hear this. Come on, I don't want to think about this.
There are certain virtues that anybody that you've grown up around that you admire, you want to find in another person. And I don't think it necessarily has to be what a daughter sees in her father. It could also be what a daughter sees in her mother. But Tony is certainly not a template to be modeling.
It's not a stand-up
a future
guy.
partner after.
No, I think that like your parent's supposed to be the blueprint of how a good person is supposed to be. And if she sees that happening in Carmela and Tony, then she'll take that and apply it to like any person she has a close relationship with.
And it's our original blueprints.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's what you said there. I think there's definitely something to that, though. Young girls wanting a husband or a partner that's comparable or better than their father, right? Because to your point, the father exudes, hopefully in most cases, right, these positive qualities and becomes a comparison point, reference point for women and who they choose. And when you think about, that, I always think about this, right? That 2 a.m. car breaks down moment, right? A girl's calling her dad, that's the stereotype, right? The girl's calling her dad until that girl has a partner or person in their life where they're calling them instead, right? So it's like this kind of handoff thing as well.
Has Meadow inherited a little bit of resentment that Tony has for Carmela? Or did Meadow inherit this kind of like misogynist viewpoint of her mother that Tony also exudes, right? Because Tony is like, Carmela's a freeloader. She doesn't have a job. She only wants me for my money. I buy her all these things and that's what she's interested in. And I wonder if Meadow feels that kind of resentment too, and maybe not outwardly says it, but can feel her father's resentment towards her mother and is internalizing that.
It could also be that Meadow is resentful of her mother because she allows herself to be treated by Tony in the ways that she does.
Yeah.
And she thinks of her as a weaker person and somebody who's not worthy of the respect that she gives to her father.
Right.
And she's talking down on her a lot. Haven't you ever heard of the restorative nature of travel? Don't you know? She's always going about these pedantic references that she thinks her mother's not going to get, and she's talking over her, but she doesn't do that with her father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But do you think Meadow doesn't talk back to Tony as much because we see in the final scene where Meadow comes back from therapy and she's like, my therapist thinks I should go to Europe. And Tony and Carmela come into Meadow's bedroom. And that's one where Meadow's like, you're in the mob. Just say it out loud. And then Tony finally gets in her face for the first time and gets really big. I think you mentioned a couple episodes ago where James Gandolfini has this way of making himself so big or like blowing himself up. I think that's the first time we see it in front of Meadow.
Yeah.
So do you think she doesn't act like that around her dad as often because he could really hurt her?
I think there's something.
He's scary.
Yeah, he's scary.
Yeah. There's something to be said for that.
Carmela's not going to hit the kids. She knows that.
And at the end of the,
but you don't know with Tony.
And at the end of the scene, Carmela's trying to take a bath, and she has that moment of saying, "What do you have to feel guilty about?"
Yeah.
To Tony, and it's all about that. Tony recognizes he has this closer relationship with Meadow. She doesn't blame him the way that she blames Carmela.
Yeah.
And Carmela's a little resentful about that. Their marriage is not in a good place in season 4 here.
Yeah, not in a great place.
Quick aside, the scene where Ralphie's clipping his nails. Janice,
So gross.
Would you catch a little shrapnel? As it like flicks her in the eye from like 20 feet away.
He's about as gross
Not
as
really.
you can get.
So gross.
Don't really need the scene, but I just get a kick out of it.
Well, we should mention in the in the last episode ends with Adriana going to the feds.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Big plot
Yes.
point.
Good point. Good
Yeah.
point to bring up.
Is that
That's some legit looking fake vomit when
Yeah.
she gets so overwhelmed
Yeah.
and just
that was
projectiles.
gross.
I don't know how they do that.
Yeah.
Good
So-
props.
Adriana finds out that Danielle is one of the feds.
Yeah.
They take her in for questioning. She throws up everywhere. It's so gross. You see the splatter.
That's gross.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I've never been so overwhelmed that I threw up. Have you guys?
No, I don't think so.
One time when I was getting dumped, I did though.
In the middle of the whole breakup?
Well, they were like, "Hey, listen, I think we should break up," and I was like, "Okay, I need to throw up real quick," and they threw up. And then I came back and I was like,
Kiss me.
"I was like, please don't do this."
You've got some good breakup stories. Should make the whole podcast about this. Oh, man. Well, these are overwhelming situations.
Yeah, they were laying it on with Adriana. All the potential outcomes.
I'm not sure there is a character who gets more abuse than Adriana. She catches it from everyone. I also noticed this is the only friend she's had throughout the entire
That's
show.
why I felt so awful for her this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gaslighting comes
Is your
back to
name
bite her in
even
the ass.
Danielle? Is your name even Danielle? And she just stares at her. She's just got like her soul sucked out of her.
She's so innocent and oblivious to the fact that this could happen to her that she's just completely overwhelmed. She has no other friends.
Mm-hmm.
And if it hadn't been for Chris gaslighting her and making her feel like she and Danny did something wrong to instigate that little threesome, she wouldn't have cut Danny out of her life. And she might have bought herself a little bit more time with them pretending to be friends. But it's because she stops responding to Danny that the feds decide, all right, let's just bring her in. Because at this point, this is as good as we're going to get with her.
Yeah.
And they start manipulating her in a similar way. They start gaslighting her, making her realize that she's in big trouble when really she's involved to an extent, but she's certainly not somebody who you would be looking at trying to prosecute.
Right.
Let's hear your long-winded summary.
Let's
Let's hear your 10-minute summary.
This is an elevator pitch, folks. Here's how it's done.
Yeah, right.
Season 4, episode 10, The Strong Silent Type, a reference to what Tony talks about at the very beginning of the show. Whatever happened to the strong silent type, the type that can hold it all together and not have to need or lean on anybody? Well, Chris hits rock bottom in this episode. His heroin addiction is full-blown. He sits on the couch and kills Adriana's dog in the beginning of an episode, which leads to an intervention that goes about as horribly as an intervention can go, but ultimately ends with Chris going to rehab. Meanwhile, we also have Furio coming home from his visit in Italy and Carmela in full smitten mode. We also have Tony, who's grieving over the death of Pai Mai. So this is the episode right after he kills Ralphie and whoever did this. And Tony receives the portrait of Pai Mai. You finally get to see this famous picture. He wants it burned, but Paulie insists that they save it because it's worth 20, 35 G's. Although it is a little haunting to Paulie, and he ultimately has to make some changes to the picture to feel a little bit better about it. And the last plot point that I think is worth noting in this episode is Svetlana is back. She's acting as Uncle Junior's caregiver and becomes Tony's one-night Gumar. Anything else, Dad?
Gumar.
Gumar with the R.
Your recap was better than mine.
That's why I said you shouldn't do him anymore.
Fuck off.
Oh,
Thank you for the
hey.
compliment, Max. I appreciate it. Yours was great. Yours
Shut
was
up.
good.
Well,
Don't gaslight me.
You're just trying too hard. Come on. Me and Maxine are winging it over here.
Yeah.
You did
You're
do
all
yours
prep.
from memory.
I did
That's-
mine from memory.
That was impressive.
SJ did write down like 3 cents. Yeah, he wrote down his whole thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
You should have notes.
Did you write down anything, Ross, for your recap?
No.
Exactly.
No,
What?
I'm winging it.
You didn't print anything out?
I mean, I have 3 pages of notes.
There you go.
Yeah, I have my notes
But
for
I
the
don't have
episode.
the, I don't,
Yeah.
but I don't have the summary written down.
All right. Well, you guys didn't understand the assignment.
There
It was
wasn't enough.
unclear.
Yeah,
That's
it
your
wasn't
fault.
clear. You said
Who's
don't.
gaslighting who now?
No, you said don't do what you did last time. So I didn't.
You did great. You did amazing, sweetie.
Fuck off. Okay. This fake dog Chris sat on was wild.
Cosette. Poor Cosette.
Poor Cosette.
Oh,
Can I say watching people do heroin on television or movies? My least favorite thing to watch.
yeah. Needles. I've
It's
never
so
been a
terrible.
fan of needles.
Ugh.
I can't see that. But Michael Imperioli does a great job acting the dope fiend. He's
Oh my God,
drooling,
his
shit coming out of his
Yeah.
nose.
His eyes rolling
Oh,
back.
yeah. He's got some range when it comes to doing heroin, apparently. But yeah, poor Cosette is killed. It destroys Adriana. I mean, I'd be,
Distraught.
yeah. And you see similar, Michael or Christopher saying, "Oh, it's not my fault. It's not my fault." She's upset. She's beside herself.
And he's like, I'll just buy you a new dog.
And then he
Yeah.
ends up getting rough with her.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a tough scene to watch.
Yeah.
Which leads to her going over to the Sopranos house to
Mhm.
see Carmela. And
Smoking.
yep. I mean, she's had a really rough evening. That's not
I'd
easy.
have a cigarette too.
Yeah.
If I had gone through what she just went through.
That's fair.
Tony takes one look at her face and he knows exactly what happened. It's one of my favorite scenes, I think, in The Sopranos is this intervention that they have.
Could not have gone worse, as you said earlier.
It was
I
also
mean, it's what you expect a mafia intervention to go like, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it all went downhill when Adriana says that Chris killed the dog.
Yeah.
That's when Tony. I knew as soon as Chris killed the dog that Tony was going to get wind of this, and it was over for Chris.
Yeah. Well, this is
Well,
the
not over,
sociopathic.
but
this
yeah.
is the sociopathic traits. He only really has
Yeah.
empathy for animals.
Yeah. I kept thinking about that the whole time. I love the when Adriana says that Chris can no longer function as a man. Just the look on Paulie's face when he hears that.
It's a lot
And
of
Christopher.
disgusted looks going
Just a
around the room.
Yeah, a lot of disgusted looks. And Chris out of the side of his mouth calling his mom an effing whore.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That was rough.
That really that blew the top off of the whole situation. I give
It
the
did.
moderator credit for trying to keep it together. He tells Tony, we're going in order. This is the only person that you see actually talking and bossing around the mob boss on all of them. And for a little while, he was able to keep it together. Still had a great bit.
Sylvia?
When I came in to open up one morning, there you were with your head half in the toilet. Your hair was in the toilet water. Disgusting.
I told you I had the flu.
I said my piece, Chrissy.
Predictably, Christopher's very defensive about the whole
Yes.
situation.
Yes. Everyone attacks him. He ends up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say he fell.
He fell. I love that the kicking when a guy's down is such a mafia move.
Yeah.
They all do it to everybody. Just
Yeah.
kick. He ends up falling down
What
some
was
stairs.
up with the younger guy?
Benny.
When Chris called his mom a whore, got so upset.
Yeah, that's Benny. He's one of the newer up and coming members of the crew.
I didn't know if he was connected to the mother in some way because he seemed to go over the top.
Yeah,
Kicking him
yeah, he's
after
doing
he said that
he's
about
doing a
mom.
lot of the kicking. Well, he's doing it he's helping out Paulie. Paulie's getting older,
Paulie's got a kick guy.
Yeah.
Guy who just does the kicking.
Exactly. I've never been part of an intervention, so I don't know really how else
Can't
they
say I
could
have
go.
either. Yeah. Well, I'm assuming most of them don't go or turn into someone getting beat up.
Yeah,
I think.
hopefully not.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that would be about as bad as they
Hopefully
can
not.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. Or put someone in the hospital. But maybe that was a good thing.
Well,
Not good thing, but it convinces Chris to go to rehab.
yeah.
Maybe Tony is like, you have to go, or I'm gonna kill you.
You ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
I love that
And all the
show.
interventions.
Yeah.
Oh, all the interventions they do for all the ridiculous behaviors. Like Marshall wearing that tall Dr. Zeus hat from the county fair or whatever. Lily with the British accent. They intervene on everything. I like that. There should be more interventions for smaller annoying behaviors.
Mm.
Y'all have to get together and say, "We're here. We all love you."
You gotta stop saying
Coded.
Coded.
It's really gotten out of hand. We want you to be healthy and safe.
we want you to be able to use the word in the right context.
Yeah.
We'll get you
Yeah.
there one day.
The denial piece of it is, it struck me just how deep people can get into these patterns and
Yeah.
still think that they're okay and that they have control over something when really they don't. And how you get somebody to accept something that they're in complete denial about, I think is one of the most challenging things that you can have to deal with. And it doesn't always end with just beating the shit out of them and getting them to a point where you're basically telling them what to do.
Yeah.
In fact, that usually doesn't work, even if you do try to beat somebody up.
No chocolate in rehab though. That's tough. I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have cigarettes, but not chocolate.
Nothing with caffeine in it?
Yeah. Caffeine's an addictive
Isn't
drug.
Nicotine's pretty bad. for you.
Nicotine's an addictive substance. Joey Sachs says that at one point.
Wait, so why nicotine and not coffee?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, nicotine, but not caffeine.
Why does Chris have like 10 chocolate bars in his bag too? It's a little interesting.
I don't know. Just something
He's got a sweet tooth. I don't know.
to tie you over.
I'll say.
The scene where Tony confronts Chris in the hospital was
Yeah.
Yeah.
a great scene between the two of them.
You lied to me. I told you you were the future of this family. I gave you that responsibility, and you looked me in the eye, and you accepted it, and you were fucking high.
Tony.
Shut up. Tomorrow morning, you're gonna go with Patsy up to this rehab place in Pennsylvania. You're going in. You're staying in. You're going to every fucking session, and you're gonna keep your mouth shut. Now, if you need anything at all, Patsy's gonna be half a mile away from you in a motel. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Huh? Do you understand?
Tony, I'm sorry. How did I fucking get to this?
And again, like I felt bad for Chris. Like when he says, "How did it get to this?" It just that's where he had that surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, accepting that you have a problem and surrendering that you don't have control over it. Those are two of the steps in the 12 steps for AA. And he delivers that with all of the legitimate feeling that you would expect somebody would when coming to that realization of what they're throwing away with their life. And Tony and his disappointment of wanting to hand this kingdom over to Christopher and that he accepted the responsibility to be the successor to him. And he was high the whole time. You just feel that disappointment, that anger that he has for him in all of it. And Chris is so remorseful. And then he sees what he's been doing and how damaging it's been. But it's not with Adriana. It's the disappointment that he's let his family, that he's let his Uncle Tony down, and not that he's killed Adriana's dog or that he can't function as a lover to her. He really doesn't love her. And I mean, that's not a galloping shock to anybody here. But, usually I think that's the person in your life. If you're lucky enough when you've fallen into addiction that you have somebody who cares about you, that you love, and that there's real love there, that's probably the person who can pull you out of it. But not for Chris.
Yep. You ever seen that meme where someone's cutting like wrapping paper with scissors where you just glide with the scissors? And they're like, I've never had heroin, but I'm sure this is what it feels like. You ever seen that meme?
Yeah.
That's what I think about all the time when I see heroin use on TV.
Honestly.
It's just the scissors just gliding on paper.
It is a satisfying feeling. I feel like heroin's probably a little bit better of a feeling. I don't know. I don't see a lot of people addicted to cutting wrapping paper just on the street, rolls and rolls of Christmas paper. Just 3 a.m., man. What are you doing?
I just get it. There's an intervention for you.
We're sold out of holiday
You're
paper.
just doing that nonstop.
Holiday paper becomes a class 1 substance.
Okay. Anything else about this episode?
Well, you got Furio and Carmela. There's that interesting scene after Furio leaves the house for the first time after seeing Carmela. He's crying.
Yeah, why is he crying?
He's crying because he's so emotional. He loves this woman that he can't have. And Tony's like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, oh, yeah, it's sad for my father. We got to get over it.
Yeah.
And the next scene they cut to is Tony crying in the chair of the therapist's office about the horse. And Melfi trying to tell him it's just a horse.
Yeah.
And he just cannot see that. It's an innocent creature to him. And he doesn't see innocence in humans. He only sees it in these animals. I think that, the Tony banging Svetlana, that ends up coming back to bite him in the ass. I love her. She does not give a fuck. She doesn't care about anybody's status. She says it like it is. She's doing her thing. And, they end up having their little moment together. And Tony's like, all right, well, this can be a regular thing. She's like, nope. This was once.
Yeah.
She meant it.
Sig and mouth the whole time. She does everything with a cig in her mouth.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
It's fat laugh.
So Whitecaps, the longest episode in The Sopranos, apparently. Sorry, Ross.
You're up, Ross.
Apparently. Fact. Okay.
Do a better
The
recap
summary
than me,
to end all
apparently.
summaries. This is going to be the shortest summary you've ever heard in your life. You ready?
Yeah.
Carmela has mono.
End scene.
How'd she get mono?
All right. I don't know. I thought that was just something you got in college for making out with people.
You can get it other ways.
Like how?
That's how I got it. I used to have to smoke weed out of an apple because I couldn't drink
An apple?
freshman year of college. Yeah, because I couldn't share the bowl with anyone else.
Why don't you just get your own bowl?
Oh, I'm not an own bowl kind of guy.
Just a going through a bunch of apples kind of guy. No. I'm not going to get a pipe. I'd rather just get a bushel of apples every couple of weeks. I love going to the orchard.
Their RAs are like, Russ is coming home with a bag of apples again.
No, you can catch mono by like drinking out of somebody else's water bottle, which we've been doing.
No. Give me mono.
I mean, I don't think I have it.
It's the mono episode.
Yeah. Is that all that happened? Carmela catches mono?
Okay. All
This
right.
episode's so
Here we go.
mono-coded.
I mean, there's a few things going on in this episode, but the main one is Carmela and Tony are splitting up.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually starts with Tony and Carmela sharing a sweet moment as they're looking at their potential new beach house in the Jersey Shore. What was the name of the town? Forgetting offhand. So everything seems fine with the two until the old Guma. What's her name? Not
Irina.
Svetlana. Irina, she's a little batshit crazy. Calls up Carmela and talks to AJ too, and is just saying all the wrong things about all of Tony's ex-lovers. Carmela finds out she's throwing shit out the window at Tony, throws his golf clubs out that Tony runs over. So this episode is mainly about the two of them heading for at least what seems like a divorce in this episode. There's another storyline with Tony and the New York crew. Johnny Sack wants the old Carmine out of the picture, wants him whacked. And has to use Tony and crew, who's going to use another third party. It's like, 7 degrees of separation here. I'm not sure why they can't just figure out that on their own. But that all kind of goes sideways and tests Johnny Sacks and Tony's relationship at the end. And we get into a little Bobby and Janice. And I think my favorite part of this episode is actually not the Carmela and Tony piece. It's the war between the Rookie of the Year dad and Tony and crew with the Dean Martin blasting from the boat.
Is that the dad from Rookie of the Year?
It is.
God,
yeah.
you're right.
The stepdad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a douchebag in that movie too.
Douchebag in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's douchebag everywhere.
Some people are just character actors.
Yeah.
He has one
Yeah.
role.
He's painting on the deck with the sweater over his shoulders.
Yeah.
That is douchebag coded.
I should have just used it right.
All right, we've
Also.
Thank you, Max.
He used it right, but we've officially killed it now.
I think we know what the title of the episode is going to be.
How's that for a summary?
Not bad.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Put that in your apple and smoke it.
Put that in your apple and smoke it.
I thought it was a really great way to start and end the episode, where you think this family is moving into the next level. They're getting ready for their grandkids, and they're building this legacy house for themselves. They have at first a very chummy relationship with the doctor or the lawyer who owns the house next to them and is going to sell them the house. And then, the wheels fall off of the cart, and they have the blowout scene of all blowout scenes. It's not just one fight too, which I loved. I thought that's a very realistic way of portraying this type of situation, that Carmela and Tony have two knockdown, drag them out fights about their relationship and everything Tony's done wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tony's in the wrong. This
Oh,
whole
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he gaslights her.
He
Did I get
does.
it right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Good
Yeah.
Yay. Did it. Nailed it.
He does
Aced
gaslight her. Yeah, the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think, Carmela is a hypocrite. Everyone in the show is a hypocrite. because she's having this thing with Furio.
Yep.
She is, I think, emotionally, maybe not physically cheating, but definitely emotionally cheating.
Oh yeah.
Not as bad as Tony fucking all those strippers, as Carmilla points out, but still, they're both in the wrong.
Yeah.
Tony is way more in the wrong. But it was, I don't know, strange to watch her get so upset over something that she has done. Well, I guess she hasn't fucked Victor.
No.
She hasn't fucked the priest.
No.
She hasn't fucked Furio.
No. And to her,
Yeah.
that's the distinction, is that she's had these
That's the line.
feelings, but she's never made it physical.
Yeah.
And I would argue that that makes it better. I mean, you don't want to have an emotional affair, but, to engage in the full physical acts of infidelity definitely takes it another step.
Yeah.
It's the difference between
herpes.
buying the gun and actually going and murdering somebody and pulling the trigger with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some would argue it's the same, but I agree with you.
Yeah. There are certainly degrees of all of this, but there's also certainly the relationship that is doomed to fail.
Yeah.
Eventually will fail.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, no, just a call back to our last episode. We were watching the Tony Dream episode, and I was like, are they separated?
Mhm.
Are they together?
Yeah, season
Do they
6.
do they remain separated?
Well,
I guess I'll find out.
You'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll continue to watch how their relationship unfolds, and a lot of season 5 is about their separation and whether or not they're going to reconcile and how they're trying to now manage this new state of co-parenting and still having a lot of shared assets. That becomes one of the big points of conflict in this season was Carmela trying to set up a way for the family to continue to remain financially solvent if something were to happen to Tony. And Tony continuing to insist that he will provide and that she has nothing to worry about. And clearly she does.
Yeah.
There's a moment in the season that you don't see where she breaks into the duck feeder that he keeps all of his cash in. And she steals some cash and she puts it into some investment accounts. And so, this is...
And he catches her.
And eventually he confronts her about that during this scene that we see.
Yeah.
But I think it also highlights the importance of managing through life together and how you can get separated from your partner because you have disagreements about how we should proceed with things like money or security or where we want to live. And you need to have open communication about the things that are difficult to talk about, or else they'll just fester. And eventually they rise up and they become this much bigger issue that wouldn't have been such a problem had you talked about it in the beginning, even if it was a little awkward. Or if, in Tony's case, you don't listen to your partner and you're always insisting that your way is the only way. That's part of the problem here. And that's why this becomes such an issue for them.
Yeah.
I used to fuck your husband. Oof. Irina. Now what you want to hear?
And Irina's upset because Irina has fallen in with Congressman Zellman, and they end up separating because although Tony at first appeared to be supportive of that relationship, he gets drunk one night, goes over to the congressman's house, beats him with his own belt, and then Congressman Zellman can no longer perform as a man either, and they end up breaking up. And so Irina is heartbroken twice over now and decides to extract some revenge.
Yeah. Tony is so sweaty while being confronted. There was sweat dripping off that man's face. It was.
So we talked about James Gandolfini being so drunk during the Whoever Did This episode that they had to chain him to the trees. Apparently, and I don't know, Ross, if your trivia research has brought up anything about this, but James Gandolfini used to drink a lot on set.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't realize that, but it was apparently a bit of a problem during a lot of the scenes. So that would maybe
Was he
explain
alcoholic, or-
why. Yeah, I mean, that would explain a lot of things. That would explain his premature death. It would explain maybe the sweatiness of some of these scenes. I mean,
Yeah.
also the fact that he's a bigger guy, but
Yeah.
it was, something else I didn't really know about the show. And apparently,
I wonder if part of that was just getting into the mode of Tony to some degree. Maybe went too far with it. I'm not sure.
I think it was hard for him to play this character, and trying to get into this role was a little difficult for him. And that was something he talks about, struggling with adopting this mindset of this person being such a sociopath and being so unfair and having these double standards and being selfish and trying to convincingly portray that. There is a bit of losing yourself in these roles that a lot of actors go through, and there's an impact to that.
Yeah. Edie Falco and James G both won Emmys for this episode, by the way.
Oh,
I wrote down, this is some great acting
yeah.
on
Yeah.
Edie's part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
She
is
was
how I would imagine
yeah.
you would, just the way that she's crying. She's hysterically crying. She's so mad when she's confronting him about Svetlana.
Mm-hmm.
What about her cousin? The nurse who took care of your mother, who I liked? Who I talked to on the telephone about your mother's alopecia and her bowel movements, who you told me came from an agency? Who I shared vodka with the night your mother died? You've been fucking her?
What really hit me was when she was like, what does she have that I don't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it felt so bad for her
Yeah.
there. And then when she finally hits him with the Furio thing.
Yeah.
Probably.
It doesn't seem to phase him all that much.
I
right?
thought, I mean, he punches through the wall.
Oh, I forgot. Yep, I forgot that happened. I'm delirious.
Didn't phase him at
Not at all.
He was fine.
He was fine.
Good thing Furio left.
Right.
It's an important
Yeah.
plot point that you missed in your summary, Ross. But Furio has skipped town very abruptly, realized he can't be part of this world anymore, and has gone to parts unknown.
Are you criticizing the summary?
Ah,
I think you are.
I'm just saying you missed it. Important thing to point out.
All right, let's
Okay,
go.
next time you
let's
can
go
do
back to
all
what
the
you left out of
summaries,
yours,
SJ.
Let's see. What did SJ leave out of his summary? Let's see.
My summary was perfect. Rate the summaries.
You wrote it down.
Read all of
Read
our
it
summaries.
again.
Yeah.
But no, Furio's gone. That's one of the reasons why Carmela finally throws that at him,
Mhm.
and it's all out there in the open. I'd still say Tony's in the wrong here.
Tony's
Right?
in the wrong.
I
Yeah.
don't think there's any denying that.
Yeah.
Ross?
Totally. And he gets the kids on his side, which is tough
Yeah.
to watch too.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because he makes it about Carmela wanting a divorce and not him. He has to leave the house because of her. It's not his decision. And the kids are over here like, we don't want you to leave, Daddy. And Carmela stays strong, but
Mhm.
she's made to look not that great there.
Yeah.
The optics of that do tend to skew it so that the parent who's leaving looks like the victim and the parent who's remaining looks like the
Mhm.
bully who's kicking them out. But generally, it's the one
Yeah.
who's done something wrong that's kicked out of the house. That's why you're kicked out of the house.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
When Tony punches the wall, he brings up the poor you thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Poor you, Carmilla, for dealing with me. You knew what you were getting into when you
Yeah.
married me. You have all these things. I buy you. Look at this house I bought you, but poor you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And none of that's what she wants.
No,
And I don't know if that's true. She seems to like the nicer things.
she likes the nicer things. I think, but also like if that was given to me, I'd also like it.
And I don't think she signed up for the cost of it.
Yeah,
She likes the things, but she probably would rather have a faithful husband.
yeah,
That seems to be a part that's missing in her life. And the men that she ends up falling for are committed men. You know, you've got the wallpaper guy.
yeah.
He was committed to his widowing. And you have a priest who's committed to God.
Mhm.
And you got Furio, he's a
Committed to
steadfast-
Italy.
Committed to Italy.
Committed to Italy. Hey, I have a
Furio.
question, Maxine.
Sure.
Do you know what it means to press *69 or what it used to mean? Did you catch that in this episode?
Oh, Melfi, that's a callback number?
Yeah.
I used some context clues.
Yeah.
Good
there you
job.
go.
Thanks.
Yeah. Star
Never-
69.
Used to be a
I've never
big
used
thing.
it, but
I'm not sure you can I mean, you don't need to. There's caller ID.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was,
We used to do that all the time, though, right?
yeah.
Who just called? *69.
That would be, yeah. You'd get a phone call. You'd have no idea who it was.
Yeah.
Just had to pick up and figure it out. A lot easier to do telemarketing back then.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about Junior's trial.
Yes.
So that ends in mistrial.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Junior finally.
So he's clear.
yeah.
Yep.
Although the impact has eroded a lot of him, unfortunately, for
Yeah.
poor old Junior. But yep, he's finally cleared of the mistrial, and his mental
Yep.
capacity has been called into question. And that judge looks a lot like an old fat Luke Skywalker to me.
Yes, he does.
For the next episode, can someone Photoshop that? I would love to
Yeah.
throw it into AI.
Yeah, that's a good. Now that's a good challenge for AI.
Yeah.
That's something AI can do. There we go. Finally has a useful
Yeah.
application. I love the way it ends. Everything's going poorly for the Sopranos, but Tony still finds a way to exact his revenge when he realizes that they shouldn't buy Whitecaps, which is the vacation house, and tries to confront the lawyer about it. And the lawyer starts to play hardball. Is one of those proud, arrogant guys who's not going to back down to a gangster. So he refuses to let him out of the sale. And then he does and says, but I'm taking the deposit. So Tony I like the move. Takes the home entertainment system out of the house, puts the speakers on the Stugats, drops anchor outside of their house over in Whitecaps. And while this arrogant lawyer is having dinner with his waspy guests and his wife, they just start playing Tony Bennett live in concert.
I love that so much.
It was a great way to end.
I can't believe he wouldn't give the deposit back. I mean, in what world would you not give it back to Tony Soprano? Like, what? Do you want to die?
Yeah.
Are you looking for that?
It's
Are you
like,
looking for death?
You're like, yeah, you're really like testing the systems. You've got a lot of faith in the fidelity of like the legal system, where you don't think this guy's going to have any problem putting you in the back of a trunk, covering you with a sheet of plastic, and just being like, all right, that's how we'll resolve this. I don't need the money back if you're dead.
The wife's onto it. She's pleading with him. Please just pay it. Could you please just get the money back? My God, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's not a conflict resolution tactic either way. Well,
All right.
what'd you think?
This is good. I'm so tired.
You're tired. We've insulted you about your summary skills.
No.
You insulted everyone about their summer skills.
Yeah.
I'm tired. Sorry, I got cranky. All right, I'm tired too.
This is our crankiest episode.
better than your summary.
This is our crankiest episode to date.
Did you like the episodes?
I did like the episodes.
Okay.
I'm glad I got to see Christopher's arc into his addiction. I feel really bad for Adriana with these sets of episodes. I feel awful for Carmilla, not awful for Tony. Tony's funniest moment was doing the boat thing. That was so funny.
That was good.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning that in this episode, we also see Chris exiting rehab.
Yes.
And he's looking clean. He's feeling good. He's never going to touch a substance again, he says.
Eating chocolate.
Yeah, eating
Can see
chocolate. Give this boy
again.
some chocolate.
No, it's a good examination of addiction, I think. It can sneak up on you, and it can be very hard to unwind.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, being true to yourself and having trust in other people and listening to what they say is an important factor of both relationships for yourself and relationships with others.
I also think we got to see two very different abusive relationship dynamics.
Yeah.
With Christopher and Adriana, and that's physically abusive, and addiction is also part of the abuse in that relationship. And Carmelo and Tony was more, they're not hitting each other, but it's very emotionally abusive.
Yeah.
And gaslighty and all that kind of stuff. So two different kinds of emotionally or abusive relationships in this episode.
Yeah.
These episodes.
Really good
Now
point.
you're throwing things at me.
Sorry. I'm fidgety when I get tired.
SJ's
Lots
pen
of-
just broke, and the top of it. Oh no, I think I picked it up on Mike. No, I flinched.
All right.
Okay.
We got to get out of
All
here.
right, just hold on. Just to summarize,
Okay.
lots of coding. I don't even think that makes sense what I just said. Lots of gaslighting.
I don't think anything that you've said this episode has made sense.
Yes, it does, Ross. Your summary was
Lots
great.
of cigs. Lots of smoking.
Lots of cigs. Good summary. That was a good summary.
Thank you. Finally,
We're getting there.
validation.
All right.
That's
I love
gaslighting.
you guys. This has been great. Thank you for staying up late with us. We appreciate it.
You didn't give me episodes for next.
Oh, that's right. That was so aggressive. This might be the last episode of Machete Order. Depending on how if we can land this plane. Now, yes, we've got the recommendations for session 8. We're gonna go. We're gonna see a little bit more of
borrow this
Adriana
pen?
here. Yeah, you can take the pen. Yeah, you got to write this down, and I need to stop fidgeting. So, I just realized I did not write the episodes down.
Oh my god. SJ.
Hold on. Cut.
This is falling apart.
I mean, it's been a long day. You know, Support this show so we don't have to keep doing this as a part-time job late at night. We're going to go. We're going to see more of Adriana. We've only got 9 more episodes that we can watch per the rules, the unbreakable rules of Machete Order. There's a lot of episodes left. If I could go back, I'm not going to say we should have done things differently because we can't. But here we are. And we've got to choose very selectively what our plot lines are going to be. So, Ross, I'm curious about what some of our fans are going to think about these selections because we're going to go with Season 5, Episode 5, Irregular Around the Margins. One of the more intense episodes that's out there, I would say. Season 5, Episode 12, Long-Term Parking. And then,
go on.
Thank you, yes. And then Season 6, Episode 13, Sopranos Home Movies.
All right.
I'm going to jump a little bit there for the last one. But, at this point, we're going thematic. We're not, look, this whole podcast has not been about giving you the best summary of everything that's happened in the show.
Clearly, you're not giving the best summary.
Another summary
Wow. There you go. Full circle. Okay. Everybody's been equally insulted about their summaries.
Enough with the zingers on the summaries. Unbelievable.
We had to all go around. Everybody had to get one.
This is not about Machete Order is not about giving good summaries. Oh
That's true. It's not about giving good summaries. It's about having good conversation with friends.
We're friends, right? Are we still friends?
Are we still friends? I hope so.
Well, I'll watch these episodes. I'll come back. If we're friends next week, I'll be in the studio.
Okay. You guys are my friends. Thank you for being my friends.
Okay, we have to go.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of Machete Order. If you like what we're doing, give us a rating and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Be sure to subscribe.
If people don't support this thing, it might not make it.
Special thanks to Brother Sal for providing us with our theme song, I Will Tell. And thank you to producer Nicole Kemet and our guest host, Ross. Do you agree with SJ and Ross's episode picks? Am I not appreciating the story the way I should? Let us know on our Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter. We will not call it X, at Machete Order. We'll talk about it, or because this is a show about Italians, we'll argue about it.
Affangu!
Be sure to tell your friends.
Until next time, I'm SJ Petaruti.
I'm Maxine Philivong, and this has been a Rotary Studios experience.